does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Hi there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today I'm very excited checking out Fate of the Norns from Pendelhaven. This is for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 plus. It'll take about 30 minutes to play, and Fate of the Norns is a gods-inspired trick-taking game where you're going to have different suits, you're going to be bidding on how many points you're going to get, but there's some interesting twists here as you'll be able to mesh together different cards and potentially gain bonus points. What am I talking about? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you about it. Alright then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Fate of the Norns. First and foremost, we got our handy dandy rule booklet. It's one page, double-sided, full color, and it's okay. It could be better, it could be worse, but it will teach you how to play the game, which ultimately is what's important, even though it might be just a slight bit frustrating. So Fate of the Norns is going to be a trick-taking game where you're trying to reach 500 or 1,000 points, depending on which one you want to play. You're going to have a deck of cards that you'll be using, and you'll be going round by round. So you'll be playing numerous rounds until someone reaches X amount of points. Now, before we get started in showing you the cards, I do want to mention that they include 4 extra cards that you can put into the game. They will provide more swinginess, and when they say that, they do mean that. These cards, if paired together with other cards, are going to get you a lot of points, 140 points, 120 points. So they're going to be giving you a huge chunk of points. I'll talk more about those in the pros and the cons. So let's take a look at the cards, and then we'll show you how the game is played. So as per typical trick-taking games, you're going to have different suits, yellows and purples and blues and greens and reds, all the different colors. But what you want to pay attention to are going to be 3 things on the cards. First, upper left-hand corner is how strong the card is. So this is 1. This is a 1. It's a pretty weak card. It's not going to win you most of the time unless you're leading. In fact, it will never win you unless you're leading. And likewise, it is only worth 0 points if it's in your victory pile, because every trick you win, you're going to sweep those cards into your win pile, and you will get the amount of points on the right-hand corner for all those cards. This isn't a great card to have in your hand, and it's not a great card to win, but that kind of balances out. Next, we have this guy. He's a 2 and a 2. We have a 2 and a 2. This is a 5 and a 10, so this one's worth 10 victory points if it's in your pile, which is great. Let's see, we'll go through a couple more. We got a 7 and a 1 right here, and the highest number you can have is a 7, so this is a very powerful card. You know you will win most of the time with the 7, especially if you lead off. But the other important thing to note on some of the cards is going to be right here. This is your Supremacy combo, which means if you have this card in your hand and you have this card right here, Fafnir, you are going to immediately gain 30 points as soon as you play these 2 cards. You'll just say, I have both these cards, I gain 30 points, and that's great. You get points. So there's a couple of those spread around. Here's Regan. So yeah, you had Regan and Fafnir. Boom, you show those 2 at the beginning of the game. When you play cards, you get 30 points. Likewise, Thor, he's going to get you 80 points if you have him and Mjolnir, so on and so forth. So those are going to be spread out throughout the deck. So what's going to happen when you first start the game? Everyone is going to get X amount of cards. That depends on how many players you're playing with. We'll just do a 3-player game, so each player is going to get 8 cards. So let's just pretend that I dealt out the other 8 cards to people, and then we're going to have 3 cards in the kitty. The rest of the cards, they go away. We will not be needing them this round. So what's going to happen is you're going to take a look at your cards, and then you're going to decide how much you want to bid, because there's going to be a bidding system next. How the bidding works is, when you win a bid, when everyone else passes, you now have a set amount of points that you need to get to. If you don't get to those points, that amount of points, you lose that amount of points. It's a very high risk, high reward when you're going for those amount of points. So you're betting based on what's in your hand, but you're also betting based on what could be in the kitty, because what you get to do is you get to pick up, when you win the bid, all 3 of the cards in the kitty, and then make the best hand you possibly can, the hand that you really want to keep, and then you put the remaining 3 cards into your win pile, which means you could potentially put, 30 points, 33 points into your win pile if you wanted to. So you'd know you'd be starting off on a really high footing, or you could not. It's really up to you. So let's take a look at what we got in our hand. We got a 7 red, so that's a good one. That's going to be a guaranteed win if we lead off with that. We have a 7-1, so that's 2 wins right there. Oh, we have Mjolnir, which means if we also have, or Thor, which means if we also have Mjolnir, that's going to be worth, what is that, 80 points? That's great. We don't have it, but it could potentially be in the kitty, so maybe we want to bid right here. We also have this guy, Brock, which means if we had Sindri, which we don't, we could potentially be gaining 20 points. So what's going to happen is we'll start bidding around the table until everyone's passed, and you have to raise the bid by increments of 10. And when someone wins, they're going to sweep up the kitty. So let's just pretend we won and see what we got here. Wow, this is really unfortunate. We got shield with hunger, but we don't have shield or hunger. So this is not a very good combination. So what we would do is we put whatever cards we want into the discard pile, and then we would lead off with a card. So this card would be trump for this this turn right here. So everyone would have to play a green if they have it. If they don't, they play another suit. And if you play another suit, you're guaranteed to lose. But whoever has the highest number of the suit that's led off is going to win those, put them into their win pile, and whoever won that is going to lead off once again, and then you're going to be doing it in your typical trip-taking fashion. Now you ask, what happens if you happen to have one of those fancy card combinations like this? This actually isn't one of those combinations, but we'll pretend it is. When you're about to play a card, you would just say, all right, I have Mjolnir, I have Thor, I'm showing everyone that I have this, and this round I am guaranteed to get 80 points, and then you play one of these two cards out as the one that you're going to play. Quite simple right there. You get the points at the end of the round, even if you win or lose that hand. At the end of the round, if the person that placed the bid got that many points, they will get that as many points as they have. If they lose that many points. Everyone else is going to gain the points that they also got as well. But there's something called the scavenger rule, which means you can't win the game unless you win the bid. So for instance, well, I'll talk more about that in the pros and cons, but that in a nutshell is how Fate of the Norns is played. Alrighty then, Fate of the Norns from Pendelhaven. What are my final thoughts? Let's go to the pros, let's go over the cons. First on the cons side of the games, no. Alrighty then, Fate of the Norns from Pendelhaven. What are my final thoughts? Let's go to the pros, let's go to the cons. First, on the pro side, the game is a trick-taking game, and it has some interesting aspects. You know, you got your typical stuff. It's going to have different suits and bidding and whatnot. But this one, when you're bidding, you really need to look at all of your cards, and there's a lot of stuff to look at on your cards, which I like. You have to look at the strength of the cards. You have to look at how many of a color of a suit you have, which is normal stuff. But then you also need to look at the value of the cards. If you lose cards, how many points are you giving your opponents? Also, you have to look at the supremacy value. If you have the combos, like if you have the combos, that's definitely going to impact how you bid. And that's another thing I liked about this game, was the bidding system. The bidding system is very tense because you're never quite sure how many you're going to get. When you play euchre or something like that, you have a pretty good idea of how many you're going to get. Maybe you rely on your partner for one or something like that. But with this, you're looking down and you're like, all right, but that kitty, if I can get a card that's really helpful in that kitty, that might bump my bonus points up by 40. I could get all these combinations and stuff, and I could do really well, or I could do very poorly. Also, you have to look at it from, you're instantly going to start the game with 3 cards in your winning pile, which means you could potentially already have 30 points in your pile. It's a very interesting aspect to the game. I'm not a fan of the artwork, but I could tell the artwork was very nice. Once you learn how to play this game, it's a very simple game to teach, which is always a good thing as well. And I like the fact that they realized that some of the cards were too swingy, so they added them as a bonus option. That's good, and that's what I got. Moving on to the cons, I was very disappointed with Fate of the Norns. I love trick-taking games. I really do enjoy them. And when I first started this one, we were about 2 hands in, and I was like, whoa, I'm starting to see the complexities here. I'm starting to see the nuances. And normally when that happens for me, that means I'm really going to like a game. I'm going to enjoy it. But then we kept playing, and we kept playing. And then I slowly but surely realized that it was all pretty much random. The whole game is just, did you get dealt a good hand of cards? Did you win the bid because you had the good hand of cards? You win that round. Oh, if that happens twice in a row, you're going to have a commanding lead. And that's a big problem. It really boils down to, did you get dealt good cards or not? And if you didn't, there's not very much you can do. Also, this game is borderline broken. I probably should have led with that. So what do I mean by borderline broken? Well, I mean that if you lose your bid, you lose that many points. So, which is an annoying aspect of the game, period. So if you bid 100 and you don't get to 100, well, you lose 100. That's not really fun. But also, the fact that if someone really doesn't want you to win, like just say they're a jerk, they don't want you to win, they could just keep raising the bid every single time and the game would never end. They would have like negative 2,000, but they could still do that and the game, in theory, would never end. So that's a little bit of a broken mechanism there, the scoring aspect of it. So I didn't like the scoring. I didn't like the fact that the cards were random. So they have the 4 cards that you can add into the game, which will make it more swingy, and oh my god, yes they do. When they say that, they're not joking. We played a game, with the first time, we played with the cards in there. Those cards in there where we had the swingy cards in. And the second round we did, one guy got 2 of the big combinations. So he started off with roughly, with the 3 cards he could put into his winning pile, about 270 points. We were going to 500. Me, on the other hand, I had about 30 points that round. But really the most damning thing about this game, the reason why I hate this game, and I hate to say that I hate the game, because it has a lot of cool stuff going for it, and I feel like with some tweaks and some things here and there, some house rules, it could be a really good game, but it's not. The biggest problem I have with this game came when I wanted to prove a point. We were playing it, I think this was about our 4th time playing it. And I was just like, I'm sick of this game. I want to do something. I'm going to prove a point right now. So I made sure that I won the bid. And it was a decent amount of bid. I bid like 100 points or something like that, 120 maybe. And I was like, all right. I took the cards from the kitty, and I had a stacked hand. And I shot the moon. So for those of you who are not big on trick-taking games, shooting the moon means that I took each and every set. I won every single card. Yes, every single card I won and was in my winning pile, yet I still finished with 120. Negative 120. Because I didn't reach that threshold despite the fact I shot the moon, I lost those points. That's really dumb. You want a house rule? If you shoot the moon, you get the points. There's just a lot of wrong turns here. The rule booklet could be better. It's not terrible, but it could be better. Plus, there's a Board Game Geek video by the creators of the game where they go over the rules of the game, but the rules they go over are different than the rule sheet that I had, which was frustrating because one guy was sitting at the table watching the video, and he was like, oh, that's not how you play it. And I was like, that's how the rules. And he was like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. And then that was frustrating, and we were just like, bleh. So overall, Fate of the Norns, I can't recommend it. I did not have fun with it. Look elsewhere for a good trick-taking game. And quite honestly, I'd rather play Euchre. It has some cool ideas, but it doesn't realize them. So that is my review for Fate of the Norns. Want to steer clear of this one. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know Batman versus Catwoman and Spider-Man's wife, Mary Jane. So Mary Jane and Catwoman versus Batman. Who's going to win? Duking it out. I think Batman's going to win. I really should have given him someone better than Mary Jane. Alright, next time I do this sort of question, I'll make it a little bit better. My bad. You know what? We'll throw in a Pitbull. Pitbull. Well, you know what? We'll throw in Pitbull, the rapper, and a Pitbull, and Mary Jane Watson, Mary Jane Parker now, and Catwoman versus Batman. And I think it really depends on what kind of suit Batman's wearing. Because that Pitbull gets in there, Pitbull's a wild card. But let me know in the comments below. Who do you think's winning that fight? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.